welcome to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Bruce McGowan, longtime sports radio personality. Today's show is going to be special because of our guest, Ted Robinson. I'm going to play a little tune here for you, audience, and see if you can remember this from the Vernon Davis catch.
49ers send two receivers wide right, two tight ends wide left. Smith in the gun with Gore on his left hip. Third down, Alex takes the snap. Alex looking down in post, and it's good! Touchdown! Touchdown 40! Vernon Davis with the play of his life. Alex Smith with the play of his life. And the 49ers are 9 seconds away from playing for the NFC Championship. Can you feel Candlestick? Wide left.
All right.
No, that's wild. You know, I was at that game, and I'll tell you, that was as exciting as the catch. That was as exciting as the great play. There were a number of great plays. The Steve Young pass to Terrell Owens in 1998 that knocked the Packers out. And, you know, there have been some great moments. It's sad because Candlestick is no longer around, but that's, you know,
I'm surprised he was able to keep his voice.
He almost did.
Almost did.
And the guy making all the noise next to him was a former 49er
Eric
Davis,
yeah.
defensive back, who now works, and I'm not sure where Eric is working these days. He worked for a while with local radio and local TV, but I'm not sure where Eric is these days.
All right, so the rest of the spiel here is that we're going to be asking sports trivia questions each commercial break, and the trivia theme is miscellaneous baseball. Okay, so we'll have various baseball questions. We're going to be giving you vacations away to the Lighthouse Resort and Marina, and the vacations are free, but their only request is a $75 cleaning fee to cover the housekeeping expenses. This segment of Sports Econ 101 is sponsored by Pacific Private Money, providing mortgages that are currently yielding 8%. Check them out at pacificprivatemoney.com. That's a good company. Stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101, and we will be right back. Okay,
All right.
good. All right. And look at that, right on the money.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. That's fun. I like doing stuff like this because
Sure,
it adds to the...
Definitely. Sounds good. You know, they came within a couple of fumbles of going to the Super Bowl that year. God, those 3 years they didn't make it were all so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Between that game of the Giants with the two fumbles, the first and goal inside the 10 and they couldn't score in the Super Bowl against Baltimore, and then the game in Seattle where the pass to Crabtree was tipped by Sherman and intercepted.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about, God.
So close.
So close. Oh.
It's going to be July 18th show.
Okay.
We did last week. We did the 4th and 11th. So the 18th,
that's right.
The next one will be the 25th.
Great. And we won't do another one till the, let's see, today's the 7th? Today's the
28th.
28th, gotcha.
Yeah, when I get back.
Gotcha. I'll be doing the, am I doing the mornings then? Not sure. 28th of July.
Regular Tuesday.
Yeah.
All right, well,
Okay.
perfect timing here. So
Okay.
now we can get Ted on. I got his, I got it here. Hi, Ted.
Yeah.
Hi, it's Edward Brown and Bruce McGowan.
Hi, how are you?
Ted, how's it going, man?
You doing okay?
Yeah, not too bad. It's been kind of a crazy time with my wife, as you know. But
I know that. So I'm asking.
Yeah, no, she's doing all right. You know, the medication is working. You know, for how long we don't know, but she looks great. She's working out like a demon and eating well, and she's got a goal, and that is to you know, stay around until my daughter reaches puberty. So I think that's a good thing to have a goal, and so that's what we're headed to. And that's, you know, my daughter's only 10, so we can get her up to 16 or 17. I think that's, you know.
And then you
one
go to college.
Hopefully,
then you go to marriage.
hopefully it's a cure and there's a much longer term answer.
Yeah, we hope so. Well, we just take it one step at a time, one day at a time.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Ted, thank you so much for joining us. Bruce and I recorded the first just 2 minutes, and for fun, we played the Vernon Davis catch. Just so you know that we
your call from KNBR. That was kind of fun.
Yeah.
With Eric Davis going crazy in the background.
Exactly. So is this going to air live right now, guys? Or
No.
No.
No, this show actually is going to air on July 18th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we just pre-record this stuff.
Okay.
Okay, ready? So what we're going to do is our first segment with you is just 9 minutes 45 seconds. Then we take a quick little trivia question break, and then I save the file, and then we just get right into the next segment. Okay?
Okay.
Great. Thank you so much. All right, you ready? Here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. And on the phone, we have the gentleman who made that call and lost his voice practically, Ted Robinson. Ted, thanks for joining us on Sports Econ 101.
Well, guys, it's nice to be with you and to relive certainly the best moment in recent 49er history.
Yeah.
And yes, my left vocal cord was roadkill after.
I can imagine. How do you do that? Where game after game, I know like with baseball, you got to do a lot of games in a row. How often do you the 49ers would be once a week? But did you do like games in between with other sports?
No, that game was really one of the great postseason games in the history of the league. There were 4 touchdowns in the last 4 minutes, and because it was the first playoff game for the team in so long, the emotion and the intensity was just beyond belief. And so I probably got caught up in that myself. Paid a pretty steep price, but thankfully a doctor at Stanford Medical Center saw me the following day, and after a week filled with taking oral steroids, I was able to make the championship game the following week. But I did learn a lesson, which is that you do all of us in our profession have to, at some point, have some degree of detachment from the emotion of the moment. It's hard, but you have to.
It's interesting, though. I remember talking to John Miller about this. And John, as you know, has one of those wonderful, buttery voices that are just, we're all so envious of him that he has it. And John said he was on the road once doing a game with either the Giants or the Orioles, and his voice just was not there. And he went to a special doctor who got him this, I guess it was some kind of medication, not a medication, it was a combination of some kind of,
honey and lemon and tea.
Yeah, something like that. And it didn't knock it out, but it kind of helped. And I guess, the lesson we learned, Ted, is, we're not singers, we're not performers on stage, but we still have to, as you point out, learn how to use our voices so that they don't they don't give out. And I know that was such a great moment. I remember being at that game and telling Edward that it was as exciting as the catch by Terrell Owens, several years back, and it was equally as exciting as the Dwight Clark catch.
Yeah. Well, Bruce, you were there, so you know this. I think the line I uttered seconds after that was the one that I always live with: "Can you feel Candlestick?"
Yeah.
And you could. And there were 2 moments as a San Francisco broadcaster where I've had that moment where you could literally feel the stadium rumble, and it was that Vernon Davis catch to beat the Saints, and the first year, going back to 2000, the first year of Axel Park, in the playoffs when JT Snow hit a 9th-inning pinch hit home run off Armando Benitez, and you could feel the ballpark aching, and it wasn't because of seismic activity. It was 40,000 people going berserk. So that's the great memory that I take away from that game. And we had another one the following year when Kaepernick had his breakout crazy game against the Packers. That was another one that was just extraordinary because not only had that not been seen before, your wildest dream could never have predicted or anticipated a quarterback having that kind of game.
It's interesting how, you were saying before about detaching yourself from the game, but the thing is, you are the voice of the 49ers, so I think it's perfectly okay to get caught up. That's what makes it exciting as a fan watching it, rather than just touchdown 49ers. You kind of get some excitement. The thing is, I was sort of kidding around about losing your voice, but did you actually had to go see the doctor because of it?
Absolutely. No, believe me, I have a seared memory of the picture. They put a camera down there, and you have two vocal cords, and the left one, mine was literally looked like roadkill. It was black.
Wow.
And so yeah, there was no way I could have on Monday morning. There was no way I could have broadcast NFC championship game. So that's where the week's worth of pretty rigorous medicine, and of course no talking and drinking a lot of hot liquid, warm liquid more accurately, got me through it. But your original point, Edward, is interesting because I grew up in New York, which is the mecca of playing things straight, and being a broadcaster that is someone, I mean, Vin Scully to this day is a New Yorker, and Vin Scully, listen to him call Kirk Gibson's home run on national television, and you would not know that he was a Dodgers broadcaster.
That's true.
He had the appropriate amount of emotion and amazement without ever betraying that he was, at that point, had been, almost 40 years with the Dodgers. And so, go back into history, the famous Russ Hodges call of Bobby Thompson's home run. The Brooklyn call of that was made by Red Barber, and Red Barber has always, I mean, he's no longer with us clearly, but had always said he wasn't really that much of a fan of Russ Hodges' call, because Red Barber was from that school where saying, you call it straight. And the guy that to me morphed it in New York is still with us as the great basketball announcer, but Marv Albert was the guy that I grew up listening to. And when I was a kid, Marv was doing radio in New York, the Knicks and Rangers. And Marv was the guy that could be honest and straight, but through his enthusiasm of voice, you knew he wanted Knicks to win.
Okay, but you can have the excitement for either team for a great call.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, you would have done that the same if the Saints would have scored the same way. I mean, maybe a little touch of a little frustration, but still, you can have that excitement.
And you should. And I think I tried to, because the previous play had been this remarkable long touchdown pass from Brees to Jimmy Graham.
Yeah.
And the 49er defensive backs, remember Dante Whitner bouncing off Graham like a rag doll. As disappointing as that moment was, it was an extraordinary individual play that at that time the Saints thought that was going to give them the win. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you have to communicate that.
Well, if you remember, Lon Simmons, who's no longer with us now too. He had some of the most exciting baseball and football, obviously, with the Jim Marshall running away. But I just think it's exciting. I really get into it a lot more when the announcers go. And it's funny because we had Jim Barnett on a couple of times, and I told him, I said, I could never call basketball, not only because of the difficulty of it, but I get so frustrated with watching that. I could never do it for the Warriors because I'd be a little bit too much into it. I go, oh my gosh, what is he doing? And you can't really do that.
Well, and that's the thing. You got to be, as Ted was pointing out, I think you have to be a fan of the game, but you do have to have a little detachment. One of your predecessors at KCBS, and we're talking to Ted Robinson, who's the voice of the 49ers, Don Klein, who was an institution in the Bay Area for many years, did Stanford football for years, and then finished off his illustrious career as the voice of the 49ers during the early 80s when they first started really becoming the prominent team that we remember. Don always used to sort of, I wouldn't say low-key, but he was of the Vin Scully kind of class, wasn't he, Ted? More of a guy who wanted to make sure that all the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted, that fans knew exactly what was going on.
Well, and you think first 30 years before the Vernon catch was the catch, and that's, of course, because of what followed it. That play has lived on in football history. It will. And listen to Don's call of that. And I thought Don was tremendous because you knew exactly what was happening. Mm-hmm. You also could hear in his voice how incredibly excited he was in communicating the excitement in Candlestick for this remarkable play. But I think that's the measure. As a listener, you can put that call on right now and you know exactly what happened. Contrast that to other calls of great moments that have lived on where you hear screaming and yelling and catchphrases and enthusiasm, and you have no idea what happened.
Yeah, and the important thing too is know when to be quiet so that people can hear the audience get excitement. Tell you what, Ted Robinson, the voice of the 49ers, stay with us. We're going to get to a quick commercial break here. The theme is miscellaneous baseball. And Ted, if you know these answers, just keep them to yourself until we come back and break. I had that one time. I had a guest answer the question on the air.
Oh,
Don't do that.
Wait till the next.
Wait till the next segment. Okay.
Exactly.
All right. So, in 100 years of Major League Baseball from 1901 to 2000, which American League franchise saw a batting average title winner, a league leading 22 times?
Wow.
Which franchise?
Wow.
All right. The first 3 emails with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Email edward@sportsecon101.com the answer to this question. In 100 years of Major League Baseball from 1901 to 2000, which American League franchise saw a batting average title winner, a league leading 22 times? Stay with us. We'll be right back. All right.
I'm going to have to say the Yankees, but I don't know. What do you think, Ted?
My guess would be the first name that popped in my mind was Detroit Tigers.
Really? Detroit? Because of Ty Cobb. There you go. Yeah. He won it,
Well, I'll let you guys
14
answer
or
on the
15
air.
times or something.
Okay, so let's see.
And then later, I think there were a few. So you having a nice, quiet day off today, I hope?
Oh yeah. I'm going up to the ball game tonight with my son. And
All right.
trying to reintroduce myself to baseball. I've been gone for so long.
Yeah. That's nice. Yeah, I'm going up there. I'm just going to hang out in the press box and visit with my buddy Barry Bloom. You know Barry from MLB.com?
For sure, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm on.
quite a character. Now, he went through cancer. He had it in his, where did he have it? He had it in his prostate. They zapped it. Then he had it in one of his lungs later, and they zapped it. He's been through the wars.
Where is Barry still living in San Diego?
No, he moved a while back to Arizona because it's better for him because of spring training. And just, also it's a little easier to get from point A to point B when you're not so close to the West
Tell
Coast.
him I said hello. I haven't seen Barry in some years.
Yeah, no, I'll mention that to him. Yeah, definitely.
All right, guys, here we go.
All right.
Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. When we got to the first commercial break, we asked this trivia question, miscellaneous baseball question. In 100 years of Major League Baseball from 1901 to 2000, which American League franchise saw a batting average title winner, a league leading 22 times?
I'm gonna defer to Ted. I think I was thinking the Yankees initially, but I think Ted had it right on. Here, go ahead, Ted.
Well, I don't know, guys, but the first team that thought popped into my mind was Detroit Tigers.
Because of Ty Cobb. Yeah.
Actually, it was the Boston Red Sox.
Wow.
Yeah, you had Jimmy Fox, Ted Williams, Wade Boggs, and Yastrzemski had most of the 22.
Yeah, Williams had quite a few of those.
That's good. Boggs would be the one I didn't think of that.
Yeah. Oh, that all that chicken that he ate. You remember how he used to be on that diet of chicken? At least he said he was eating chicken.
Well, it's better than Bob St. Clair eating the raw meat.
Ah, that's right. Good old Bob St. Clair. Imagine, Ted, your path must have crossed with Bob St. Clair, even though Bob was well into his retirement. When you hooked up with the 49ers, I imagine you ran into him a few times.
I did, Bruce. I got a chance to meet him a few times at 49er functions over the last 4 or 5 years, and it's amazing, for a guy that played the line in an era when there wasn't a whole lot of pretty protection, like the players have today, that he handled that real well. Bob was a real funny guy, told great stories, and lived a good life. I'm happy for him.
Yeah, he was about 6'9", weighed about 260 pounds.
He was a man among boys.
Yeah, he really was. He really was back in the day.
So, hey, Ted, we have Ted Robinson, voice of the 49ers, on the air. Ted, I was going to ask you, I've kind of as the average fan, internally go, yeah, I'd love to, call baseball and all that stuff. And baseball is a lot easier because it's a slower game. How do you multitask to be able to call football with all 22 guys on the field?
Well, Edward, I'll give you my view of this. And I'm going to say of the 3 major sports, I won't count hockey because hockey is a specialty, although it is the sport I started out in my first 6 years calling hockey. But of the 3 big sports, I think baseball is by far and away the most difficult to do well.
Huh. Oh, okay.
And if you're on the air for 3 hours, the ball game, there's a probable total of 5 minutes of action. And the other 2 hours and 55 minutes, you have to make yourself entertaining.
Yeah.
Doing 162 times, I truly believe, and I'm referencing mostly radio here, that baseball is by far and away the hardest sport to do well.
But don't you have people like handing you stats so they can?
No, you have to be prepared, Edward. I mean, you're not going to have somebody who's feeding you that stuff. And Ted knows this. He did it for 9 years. The key to me, Ted, is that you have to come up with the good stories. The stats will only take you so far.
Oh, that's well, you know, stats will turn people off pretty quickly.
Yeah.
You use, to me, the information, which is 80 times more available today than it was when I started 30 years ago, baseball. That has to be used selectively and properly.
Yeah, you just can't do the old Bob Uecker, you know.
Yeah.
He hits well on Tuesdays. You know,
No, but here's the thing, and I just did a little bit of it myself, minor league, and I was lucky enough to fill in a few times. You have to be prepared with just a lot of information, and you have to kind of immerse yourself in baseball. And I know, Ted, when you did the Giants, you're traveling with the team, and unlike the other sports where you're around the guys, you're with them every day watching a game. So it's a little bit easier in some respects.
No, traveling with a team in baseball is outstanding because you're with them, you're on the planes, on the buses, in the hotels every day, and there's a familiarity that makes it easier, should make it easier for you to do your job, to have all that background information. But if you listen to John Miller, for example, on the radio, he pretty much follows the formula that Ernie Harwell taught me 25 years ago when he was still doing Tiger games and I was in the American League. And Ernie taught me this once. He said, once you get beyond batting average, home runs, and runs batted in, fans really don't care. Now, I would think there's a legitimate point to make that 25 years later, we've maybe advanced a bit beyond that there can be the selective use of information, you know, what left-handed pitchers are doing to left-hand batters, what a guy does in scoring, late inning scoring position situations, etc. But the basic premise of Ernie, I still think, and that there was a well-known broadcaster for a long time with the Dodgers, Ross Porter, and Ross was stat-heavy announcer, and he would tell you that here comes Eric Karras, the Light and Eric, of course, on Tuesday nights after 8 p.m. when the temperature's below 60 degrees, is hitting 238 for the year. And you're just, as a listener, to me, that my head would get numb.
Yeah, you get against left-handed, blue-eyed relief pitchers. Exactly, I mean, that kind of thing gets a little.
Thing, yeah.
Well, it gets a little. Got to ask you about, for those that don't know Ted Robinson, and you should, because he's been sort of, I would call Ted a peripatetic sort of a guy, because he's worked in not only all the major league sports, but he's done
tennis
on Olympics, on national television. He's moved around a lot, but he's basically been headquartered here in the Bay Area. And I got to know Ted when he first came out here. I got blown out of a job in New York, which was my big break, and was lucky enough to get freelance work out here. And Ted was just hooking up with KCBS. He had worked with the A's. And Ted, that was really the start, I think, of the good times for you, because as I remember, Don Klein was your boss, and you got to do a little bit of everything. You started off as an update guy, but you quickly moved into the play-by-play. Tell us about that little story about your working into the Bay Area media and in working with the local teams.
Well, at first, when I was hired in 1982 at KCBS Radio, when I was 25 years old. I was working in Minnesota doing hockey for the Minnesota North Stars, but I wasn't doing the play-by-play. I was the intermission host and the color analyst on the radio broadcast. So, I was also doing a talk show and other stuff, but I really wanted to do play-by-play. Well, KCBS gave me a chance to come out to San Francisco and work. There was no play-by-play involved, but I thought I'd roll the dice and take a shot. And a year later, the biggest break for me that ever happened occurred when Bill King, who was at that time torn between three sports, decided to give up the Warriors. And KCBS had just signed the Warriors to a contract, and of course, they were promoting me to Franklin Muley, and Franklin understood that I was young and inexpensive, which fit the profile. And so at 26 years old, I became the full-time announcer for the Warriors and followed Bill King, which was an incredible challenge. This was, of course, a different era. The Warriors were not the Warriors. The NBA was not the NBA. Reed, Jordan, Bird, and Magic were in the league, but really, to me, me, it feels like a pretty historic NBA when I go to a game now and see what it's like. But for me, it was 2 years of 160 some odd games doing television and radio, and it was an incredible growth experience because I did it by myself. I had no analyst. And I remember asking the second year, the front office of the Warriors, I said, could we get an analyst for at least a television game? And that was just not going to. I was not going to factor into the budget.
Unless it came out of your pocket.
and so therefore, you really learn it. Again, I was a young kid, but having to learn how to walk the tightrope of doing a simulcast, of calling a game that people at home who cared enough were seeing it on television, but was also going to be heard on the radio. And then compounded by the fact that at that time, a percentage of the games the Warriors played were tape delayed on radio. Right, they were tape delayed on radio from the East Coast, was not to disrupt afternoon drive on KCBS. That was an incredible profit machine. But now you're saying, okay, I've got to call this game on television for the live viewers, but 3 hours from now, people in their cars are going to hear this game and they won't have television. So it really was a difficult call, and thankfully, simulcast is an antiquated. I think that has long gone now. I think for Scully still does 2 innings, I believe, of Dodger games. I think that's the only simulcast left in America, and good riddance to it.
Well, and one of the things I thought was so wonderful is that you did get, and you took advantage of opportunities to do Stanford play-by-play. You got into the Giants later on. You went back to Minnesota for a while. You spent some time in New York with the Mets. So you really had a chance to see a little bit of everything. And then tell us about the experience of getting into tennis, because to me,
I was going to ask about that.
yeah, because that's really become tennis, and the Olympics, have put you on the map nationally. But how did you get the tennis gig?
Well, the tennis was one thing in life that has happened to me that was totally unplanned, that I could never have envisioned, and actually wasn't even trying to get. I was offered in 1986. This is at the time now I am doing Stanford broadcast, CCDF doing the A's television, Pac-10 games, and still working my full-time job at KCBS, and all of this at the same time. I got a call from somebody in New York who says, hey, USA Network would like to meet you. Great, what are you talking about? He goes, well, they're looking for a tennis announcer. Well, I don't know. I mean, I know how to keep score in tennis, and I understand the basic rules, but I don't know the sport at all. And they said, just doesn't matter. They want to meet you. So I flew to New York, and I sat down, and I said the same thing to the people in the room. Was, like, I'm really not this guy. And they said, well, that's okay. We have people who won championships in tennis. We need basically a professional traffic cop, which is in essence what that job is.
Yeah, as long as you have a good
They ended up
sidekick.
giving me a tryout on a tournament, and that tryout led into 27 years now of doing tennis. But I literally got an on-air audition for a tournament, and that was really was the live shot to see if you could pull it off, and somehow they thought I could.
Very good. Okay, hey, Ted Robinson, the voice of the 49ers, stay with us. We're going to cut to our second commercial break. We're talking miscellaneous baseball here. Which pitcher struck out the great Willie Mays more times than any other? All right, the first 3 emails with the correct answer. You're going to win that free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Email Edward at sportsecon101.com the answer to this question. Which pitcher struck out the great Willie Mays more times than any other? And my guess is probably 2, because he didn't strike out that much. No, just kidding. Okay, stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back.
I remember him talking about it. There was a guy that was not somebody who was a household name, but he was a pretty successful pitcher. But he had to have pitched a fair number of years. My memory is, unfortunately, Ted, I don't know about your memory, if it's as sharp as it used to be, but I can tell you my memory is not quite as good as it was 5 years ago.
He's not that old.
No, Ted's only 5 years younger than me, but he's in good shape. I don't know if you know that answer either.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I assume it's somebody that's not obvious, because that's usually the way it goes in baseball, right? There's always a guy that owned Tom Seaver.
Oh, yeah.
Tommy Hutton.
Tommy Hutton.
Hutton had
Gosh, I remember
the
that.
last he'll tell me you couldn't get Tommy Hutton out. I don't know why.
I bet you Tommy had a lot of fun with that when he was doing the Expos for years on TV.
And he still does the Marlins.
Is he doing the Marlins still? Okay.
Yeah, Tommy Hutton's been doing the Marlins for a long time.
Good guy.
Okay, we just have one more little segment here.
Okay.
Okay. All right, here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. One more time, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. When we cut to the second commercial break, we asked this trivia question about baseball. Which pitcher struck out the great Willie Mays more times than any other?
I'm going to guess, and I remember Willie mentioning this name, and it just popped in my head. It was a pitcher with the Brooklyn Dodgers named Ewell Blackwell. Willie said he was always really tough on him, but he didn't pitch for that many years. He pitched maybe 10 years, so I don't know. You got a guess, Ted?
Actually, believe it or not, I don't. I wouldn't even know where to go.
Actually, believe it or not, it is a household name.
Really? Warren Spahn?
No.
No.
It was a great Cardinal pitcher.
Bob Gibson.
That's it.
Gibson.
Bob Gibson.
Of course.
Had his number. Well, I don't know if he'd say had his number. He just struck him out more times.
Wow.
So, Ted, we're talking to Ted Robinson, voice of the 49ers, who has not only done the 49ers, but he's done baseball, tennis, the Olympics. What sports haven't you done? Like lacrosse and curling? I mean,
Never. Two things. I've never called a soccer match and never called a horse race.
Okay. All right. And those are somewhat major. Have you done boxing?
I did boxing once upon a time. Yes, I've sampled. I've had the sampler flatterer. I've done a lot of things once or twice on, especially USA Network back in the old days. But no, I've never called a soccer match, and that I would not be qualified to do. But I'd love to call a horse race sometime. I enjoy calling races.
Horse racing is a fun sport to attend. I covered a bunch, and I got to cover the Triple Crown one year. But I got to ask you about the Women's World Cup, because the recent game up in Canada set all sorts of television records. I know that's a completely different audience and a lot of young girls and women, but a lot of guys were into this thing too. Did you have a chance to watch it? And what was your reaction to just the intensity, the emotion of this experienced and exciting women's team that finally brought the World Cup home after, 16, 17 years?
Bruce, it's obvious that this was, I think, a real crowning moment for what Title IX started in the United States. You've lived long enough to see it, and that here now, all of these, these generations we've had of young girls growing up playing soccer have carried that through to where the United States is now the best country in the world in women's soccer, as we have been in women's basketball. And that, to me, is what's really nice. Now, whether or not we can make the same translation in men's soccer, we're still a ways away from that. But that I thought was fabulous. And it's funny because I've spent so much time in tennis. I think American women's tennis has been hampered because so many young ladies now have options to play basketball and do it at a high level and make a living. And now soccer may start the same thing, and it's taken people away from what was the premier and the only sport. If you were a young woman and you wanted to be a professional athlete, you basically had to play tennis. That was the only option you had.
Just on a personal note, I just happen to be at the gym, and I don't really care for soccer, because to me, there's just too much running around.
Well, if you don't grow up with a sport, and that's the problem. I didn't grow up with a sport either, and I became a late convert to it. But the great thing about soccer, I think Ted will agree with this, is that it's pretty easy to understand. I mean, the intricacies may be, and the subtleties may be a little difficult, but it's kick the ball into the net.
Yeah.
That's what I love about hockey too. It's the same kind of a sport, and I guess that's why it has the universal appeal. But
that's okay. The thing I really enjoyed about the women's soccer was the fact that there was a decent amount of scoring. Because to me, the 1-0 type deals, I can't get really that excited about. I mean, baseball's a little different in that way, and for some reason, when I've watched men's soccer and I've watched women's soccer, to me, as just the average, Joe watching it, it's almost on par. However, if you watch like women's basketball, it's not even close to men's basketball.
I always think there's too much scoring in basketball and not enough scoring in soccer. But Ted, I know that you cover all these sports. That's the beauty of the difference of these sports, is that we can get into all the little subtleties.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought, Edward, that you came up with, because women's basketball is played the way that we grew up playing basketball, meaning on the court. I always thought that was the one appeal the women's game had, and now the Warriors this past year went and changed that, because they brought the game back down to earth and played it at an incredibly high level. But I would also agree with you on the scoring standpoint, because I went to a Giants game when the New York Mets were in San Francisco, and for 7 innings, I could count on one hand the number of balls that were hit squarely by either team.
Yeah.
And it was incredibly boring to be there and watch. It was not a compelling baseball game when you have just zero offense, when you have no one even threatening to score. So I get the point. That's, I think, something that baseball in this era without the post-performance-enhancing drug era in baseball, where all of the stock had gone out of the game. That's a challenge for baseball going forward.
Well, my wife and I got to a game really late one time. It was the 8th inning, and the score was 0-0, and she tells me, we didn't miss a thing.
I know that. I know you're making that up because I've heard that joke before. That's a good one. I like that one. I like that. Yeah, I got to ask you, Ted, about the tennis, though. I mean, Serena Williams and her sister Venus, they're in their 30s. Serena's 33, Venus is 35. I mean, how much longer can these two gals continue? They're so much better than everybody else. I mean, once in a while, Serena gets upset, and Venus isn't quite at the level, obviously, of her sister, not nearly as much as she used to be. But how much longer can they go?
I think, Bruce, the answer for Venus will be through next summer. I believe Venus fully intends on playing in the Rio Olympics. The Olympic Games have been a huge thing for the Williams sisters, both as singles players and as doubles partners. So I think Venus will stay through Rio, be 36 then. Serena's a different story because she is so dominant right now and so distant as the number one player from even number two. And I think the only things right now that stop Serena are either injury or disinterest. She can play another 3 or 4 years and break every record in the sport. And by the way, right now, Venus Williams is the second highest ranked American women's tennis player right now. That if the Olympics were next month rather than a year from next month, Venus Williams would play singles, which is hard to fathom.
Wow. How about now on the men's side? Because there's been just a real shortage of great players from the United States. I remember watching John Eisner a couple weeks ago lose a 5-set thriller. I think it was in the 3rd round, and he's ranked number 17. I just don't see that many American men playing the game at a high level right now, and I think it's hurt the popularity of the sport here in the United States.
No, and I think the question here gets very cultural, Bruce, in that I believe the legacy of Serena Williams and Venus Williams is being seen right now with a young player, Madison Keys, who's in the top 20, and Sloane Stephens, who has been in the top 20 and right now is probably around 35 in the world. Young African-American women who grew up watching Venus Williams and Serena Williams. They're playing tennis. We don't have that on the men's side. Right now, we appear to have a group of young American boys, they're still called. They're 16, 17, 18 years old. And my belief is this is the best. I've been told by people who know, this is the best group that we've had probably 12 to 15 years.
Wow.
So it may take 3 to 4 years for that to be realized at the top of the professional game, but for the first time, there's some real hope for the men.
Is it hard to quantify in terms of like who's number one of all time? We all have to do that in sports. I mean, but if you put Roger Federer up against, say, not Yvonne Wendell, but against Pete Sampras or against Bjorn Borg or maybe even somebody from years ago, is it pretty fair to say that Federer matches up or measures up as well as anybody?
Well, that's it. This is tennis's great barroom debate. GOAT. You always say GOAT, greatest of all time. And yes, you can't compare eras in tennis, nor can you in baseball. Babe Ruth never faced a pitcher of color. Okay, and so Babe Ruth never had to get on an airplane and fly across the country and play a game on the same day like the Giants just had to do. So the conditions are different, and in tennis it's the very same thing.
Of course, they do have 2 trains, though.
Yeah, technology and equipment, etc. So, but to me, Roger Federer, if you look at his entire body of work, is the greatest men's player of the tennis era, and Serena Williams hasn't yet broken all the records, but I think she will, and without question, she is the greatest women's tennis player I've ever seen.
Well, let me ask you about tennis for a minute. Has the ball changed that much in 40, 50 years?
Ball changes tournament to tournament. Yeah, every one of the championships and use the tennis ball of their choice and their liking, and as years have gone on, that's the biggest way, Edward, that tournaments have tried to control the style of play. You can't really change the surface very much. The rackets are out of control, and there's very little legislation on the racket, but they can control the actual tennis ball. So that is generally when you hear players in professional tennis complain about the conditions, generally the ball that they're complaining about.
I mean, you play on grass, play on clay, but I didn't realize that the ball itself, I mean, I know there's, Penn and Spalding and all that, but I didn't realize that the ball itself, like in baseball, except for being maybe juiced once in a while, the ball really hadn't had not changed in 100 years.
And now the ball, in golf, the ball's legislated. In baseball, clearly the ball's highly legislated. In tennis, it's not. I mean, there are specifications in terms of size, but the softness versus the hardness of the ball is what they alter dramatically to change. And it doesn't have to be altered much, but it can dramatically change the way the game.
Well, it's interesting. I don't know if you know much about bowling, because my sport was I was a semi-professional bowler. And what they would do is not only weigh the ball before each tournament, because you could not have a ball that weighed more than 16 pounds, but they had a little mechanism to test the hardness of the ball. And if they knew ahead of time that the lanes were going to be really dry, you'd want a really hard ball. And if they weren't, some guys would do was put their ball in the refrigerator overnight. And,
That's crazy.
you can get this ball, and it's really cold, and they go, I was just driving through the snow. Well, they would test the ball, and if it was past, I think, 90 hardness, they basically disqualify you, or they say you have to wait until it softens up.
That's crazy.
It's the same thing with the softness. It couldn't be less than, I think, 65 hardness.
Wow. I was going to say to Ted, too, about that. You mentioned, you touched on the rackets. I remember as a kid growing up, and I'm showing my age, we played with wooden rackets. Yeah, wooden rackets. I remember the first metal racket I bought was when I was about 18 years old, and it just seemed almost alien in my hand. It was exciting, but that, as you pointed out, the rackets are crazy nowadays.
Well, yeah, and of course you probably bought the Wilson T2000.
Oh yeah,
yeah, exactly.
Most of us of age remember that was Jimmy Connors. Really was the guy that broke through using that racket, and that started a trend that never would stop. Going away from wood. And actually, I'll be honest with you guys, it's not really the racket frame as much now as it is the strings. The strings are a combination of synthetic gut, and some players go all gut, some players go all synthetic, some players go a hybrid, depending on their particular game and their strengths. But they can tailor rings now to do exactly what the players want, and they will also have likely carry 8 rackets on the court. Maybe a couple that are of different string tensions.
Well, I thought that had to do with just because they get upset and then they want to just break them on the ground.
Oh, well, you'll see that if you watch Wimbledon. If you watch long enough, you'll see that at a particular point in between games, for example, when there's no changeover, a player will run over to his bag and take out a new racket.
Yeah.
That's because they change tennis balls every 9 games once the match starts.
Wow.
Hey, I guess they
literally pop cans open and they've got fresh tennis balls coming right out of the can. They fly.
Wow.
Players know that, so they'll go and almost all of them will go get a new racket when there are new balls introduced to try to control the flight of the ball those first game or two.
Wow. Ted Robinson, the voice of the 49ers, also the voice of tennis, too. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to cut to our last commercial break here. I'll let you listen to this question, and then we'll let you go. What began the demise of St. Louis pitching great MVP and Hall of Fame inductee Dizzy Dean? Okay, what had actually happened to him that was the beginning of his demise? Okay, the first 3 emails with the correct answer would win a free 3-day 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Email edward@sportsecon101.com the answer to that question. Ted Robinson, thank you so much for joining us on Sports Econ 101. Definitely have to have you on again.
My pleasure, guys. Thank you.
Great talking to you, Ted. Good to hear from you. He's really, truly one of the great broadcasters, and again, a guy who does a little bit of everything. And I think that's the secret to success in our profession, is being adaptable enough that you can move around and try a lot of different things.
Sure is. Okay, stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. We'll have some closing comments when we come back.
I can tell you that one. Dizzy Dean got hit with I think he was running to second base and he got hit with the ball. The shortstop threw the ball and hit him in the head, I think. Or was it, he might have gotten hit with a line drive in the foot.
That's what it was.
That's what it was.
That's very good.
Yeah.
Okay, you got
that was it. You got hit with a line drive in the foot. It screwed him up. Boy, the Giants, I hate to say it. They're going to make the playoffs as a wild card. Probably. No, you look at the rest of the league. There's the St. Louis Cardinals. There's Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
There's, of course, the Dodgers and Washington. But there are no other teams that are really any better than the Giants. So that's 4 teams. And they're playing horribly right now. They're playing horribly right now, but they're still only 4 games. They're only a couple games out of the wild card. Yeah. You know what you should do for that? Always bring some hot tea in here.
You know what it was? I have a small epiglottis. When I drink, I need to remember to go like this.
Well, it's also all this air conditioning.
That doesn't help.
No.
Yeah.
You know, before you go on the air, bring in some hot
tea.
hot tea. I am when I'm on the air and doing my thing occasionally. I'm constantly drinking water just to kind of keep the throat because it gets dry. It dries out. If I'm in, I got to go do a 11-day stint, and I just realized something. The 28th, I'm not going to be here. I will be out of town.
On Tuesday the 28th?
Yeah, because we're taking a week-long vacation. I just realized that. We were going to leave on Wednesday. We're going to leave on Monday because we're going to go to Tahoe for a couple days. So go ahead. You know,
Remind me.
I will be back the following week, but I will not be here that 28th.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'll let you know. Get you a guest or something.
Okay.
Or, you know, we'll figure it out. It's not that big a deal. That's 3 weeks from now.
Yeah. Yeah, I was really happy today because they traded David Lee.
Oh, where did they send him to?
Celtics.
For what? Draft pick?
No,
Money?
It's
Conditional pick?
Some guard.
Really? They got a player for him, huh? Well, they needed. It was an addition by subtraction. I tell you, David Lee had his moments, though.
He did.
He had his moments even this year.
I want them to trade Bogut too.
The problem is they need an enforcer. If you trade Bogut, you don't have an enforcer.
Get DeAndre Jordan. Except for
You're not
someone
gonna
else to shoot free throws for him.
He's not interested in coming to this kind of a team. You got to get a guy who's selfless. DeAndre Jordan is not selfless. He's like most NBA players. That's why the Warriors are unique.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Well, he's not a jerk, but he just is not. You know, he's like Chris Paul. He's like LaMarcus Aldridge. He's like 90% of the NBA guys. That's why LeBron.
That's why the Warriors did well. Iguodala basically said,
exactly.
"Listen, you want me on the bench?
That's
I'm an all-star."
Exactly right.
They came in.
Exactly. I mean, they had talent too, but they were selfless.
Yeah.
And Kerr connected with him. You know what Kerr did before he took that job was he went up to Seattle and spent 3 days with Pete Carroll, just picking his brain on how do you relate to players. Because you have to, with today's athletes, you have to really be a psychologist. And a lot of these guys, they don't connect with the players. And that's the problem. Yeah, that's what you have to do.
All right.
I think you have to do that in any business, actually.
So close out our thing here. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. Oh, it's great having Ted on.
Ted's a good guy, and he's been around for a while, but he's got a lot of years left behind the mic.
He's only, 56 or something? Right?
Oh, he's 5 years younger than me, so I'm 63, he's 58. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's our last trivia question. What began the demise of St. Louis pitching great MVP and Hall of Fame inductee Dizzy Dean?
He got hit with a line drive in the foot, and he never was able to he won 31 games, I believe, in the early 30s, and for about 4 years he was the best pitcher in baseball, but that foot injury just messed up his follow-through, and he never was able to pitch well again.
That's it. He broke his toe in an All-Star game. Line drive off Indians' Earl Averill.
Averill.
Excuse
me.
He continued to play, and then he came back too early in the season after the injury.
And Earl Averill, by the way, a little sidelight to that, he had a son who played in the 1950s, who was a very good player himself. Not at the high quality that the older guy was, but pretty good.
That's why usually it's the opposite. The son usually does better.
Yeah, that's more today. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that the athletes of today get trained so much at an early age. In the old days, that wasn't the case. You know, they kind of had to teach themselves how to play the game.
Very good. Here's our thoughts for the day. In fact, it's interesting. We were talking a lot of tennis with Ted Robinson. John McEnroe said, "I'll let the racket do the talking." But if I remember correctly, he did most of the talking.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Most of the barking is what he did.
Barking, yeah.
Barking at the officials.
Jim Boughton said, "You spend a good piece of your life gripping a baseball, and in the end, it turns out it was the other way around."
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that baseball business and that baseball lifestyle grips you and doesn't let you go for a while.
All righty. Tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective, giving away more free vacations for answering sports trivia questions. And in fact, next week our guest is going to be David Vogelstein, criminal attorney. We're going to be talking about when coaches do bad things.
Ooh.
That ought to be very
We're going to talk about that coach from Rutgers. You remember that?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about a lot of stuff with David Vogelstein. Anyway, thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Good night, America.
So long.
All right. One down, one to go.